Hey friends, it is Brigie from Boujee, Texas BBQ, and on today's episode, we are going low and slow for a cherry Dr. Pepper pulled pork. It's a beautiful crisp morning in Texas and we are going to begin prepping our pork butt. You are going to need 1 bottle of cherry Dr. Pepper or your favorite soda and an injector. I'm using Oklahoma Joe's 2-in-1 injector spray bottle. This pork butt is a little over 8 pounds, so I'm going to use almost 17 ounces of cherry Dr. Pepper. We are just going to pump it into the pork butt until it doubles in size or until the liquid starts to spritz back out. But honestly guys, you can use any soda. This is just my favorite soda, so that's why I'm using cherry Dr. Pepper. I think it complements pork very well. I also don't recommend adding any seasonings into your injecting marinade unless your equipment is able to handle it. Now let's talk about why I'm injecting. If you have successfully smoked pork butt in the past, you know it's juicy on its own. The reason I'm choosing to inject is to get flavor throughout the meat. So keep that in mind when you're injecting. Make sure you're injecting evenly throughout the pork. That way when your meat is done, every single bite has all that flavor in there. And as I mentioned earlier, you are going to want to inject that Dr. Pepper until it spritz back out. Now let's talk about seasonings. I'm using a combination of Oklahoma Joe's Texas barbecue rub and their Nashville barbecue rub, because the flavor profiles I'm going for today is sweet, heat, and acidic. So the Dr. Pepper is the sweet, the combo of the Texas and Nashville rub will be the heat, and for that acidic flavor, once your pulled pork is done, you can toss it in a vinegar-based barbecue sauce for that perfectly balanced flavor. Also, don't be shy when it comes to seasoning your pork, especially when it comes to pork butt. It can definitely handle seasonings. Now I do have to warn you, the OKJ Nashville barbecue rub is on the hotter side. I personally don't mind the heat, but I just wanted to give y'all a heads up. Now as always, you are going to want to pat your seasonings. Do not rub them in because they will rub off. Allow this to dry brine while we heat up our smoker. Today I'm going to be smoking on the Oklahoma Joe's Tahoma 900, and I'm going to be filling my hopper up with a combination of hickory wood, cherry wood, and pecan wood, along with roughly 16 pounds of Oklahoma Joe's signature charcoal briquettes. Don't forget to lock your hopper. Now it's time to light our fire. Make sure you empty all ashes before adding your fire starters. And a little pro tip when it comes to the Tahoma 900, make sure your fire starters are directly beneath the charcoal, but don't close it all the way. Allow it to breathe for about 5 to 10 minutes before locking it up, and as always, make sure the vent is open. Now that everything's ready to go, program your Tahoma 900 to 250 degrees and open the lid up. This is just another way to make sure your fire is getting enough oxygen before actually putting your meat on. Now that my smoker is up to temperature, it's time to add my pork. I'm gonna place it right in the middle of my smoker and go low and slow for 4 hours undisturbed. One of the joys of owning a Tahoma 900, it will babysit my fire while I go enjoy a nice cup of coffee. After 4 hours, it's time to check on our pork. The bark is looking a little dry, so it's time to spritz. You can keep it basic and just spritz with water, but today I'm actually going to spritz with some more cherry Dr. Pepper. And I'm going to continue smoking at 250 degrees, spritzing every hour until I reach my desired bark, which didn't happen until hour 6. Now that I'm happy with my bark, I'm going to add my pork to a disposable pan. I'm going to add more cherry Dr. Pepper along with some seasonings. This step is optional, but it's not only going to help our pork cook faster, but it's going to catch all those drippings. Adding more seasonings is optional, but it's going to add more flavor to the drippings. Adding more soda is not only going to add more flavor, it's going to add moisture to your pork. And this step is optional, you absolutely do not need to wrap. But if you happen to be experiencing a late stall, this step will help you push through the stall without having to increase your smoker temperature. I'm also only adding roughly 16 ounces of more soda. You don't need to fully submerge your pork, you just need to add a little moisture on the bottom. Also keep in mind when you are wrapping your pork, you don't want to leave it out of the smoker for too long. Make sure to wrap your pork as fastly as you can and throw it back into the smoker because you don't want your internal temperature to drop too much. Last but not least, to complete this step, you are going to wrap your pan tightly with 2 pieces of heavy duty foil, and then we are going to continue smoking at 250 degrees until probe tender. And when I say probe tender, I mean your thermometer should slide into your meat without any resistance. You should not need to apply any pressure to the thermometer to poke through your meat. My total cook time at 250 degrees was a little over 8 hours, not including the rest time. I recommend resting your pork for at least 1 hour or until it drops to an internal temp of 150 degrees before shredding. Remember, your smoked meat should never be scorching hot when you shred or slice. And even though my pork was wrapped, the bark still got darker, so I'm very happy with the result. One big indicator that our pork was perfectly smoked is the bone. If the bone is peeping out like this, your pork is perfectly cooked. And as you can see, no meat was attached. It's a clean bone. And now it's time to shred. Definitely no forks needed for this pork. This pork didn't even need 2 hands to shred. It was literally melting in my hands. Once you're done shredding your pork, you can enjoy as is or even toss it in your favorite vinegar-based barbecue sauce, which I'm going to do after I toss it in the au jus, which is absolutely optional, but I cannot pass all these flavors in the drippings. Give it a good mix and it's ready to eat. Now you just need to decide how you're actually going to eat it. Till next time, guys, enjoy.